Tonight on Politics as Usual, the novel coronavirus as an emerging public health threat, the country and the world doing everything to cope and keep the virus at bay. I'm Pia Hontiveros. There are Filipino nationals in Wuhan, the city in Hubei province in China, the center of the crisis where the new coronavirus was detected in December. We're going to speak now to a University of the Philippines professor, Jan Robert Go, who's taking his doctorate in Wuhan. Jan, good evening and welcome to Politics as Usual.
Oh, good evening, Pia.
Yeah, you know, Jan, I used to interview you all the time, and you've been there since September 2018?
September 2018, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and your doctorate in?
In political theory.
Okay, and you're going to be there for how long?
It should be for 4 years.
Okay, because the first year you learn Mandarin.
Yeah, I learned advanced Chinese.
Okay, well, so you're taking a doctorate right now. You are on a winter break, so you don't have to go to class. You don't have classes.
Yeah, there are
you
no
know,
class.
school.
Yeah.
But you are in a dorm and you're just there. You stay in your dorm. Ganun ba? Is that what
Yeah,
your routine is like?
Yeah, I'm inside the school dormitory, so for the entire vacation.
Okay, describe to us what your daily routine is like ever since this coronavirus scare started.
Oh, well, I just stay in my room. So basically, I wake up and I still have my books here, so I read some of my books. Or when I get bored reading, I start watching some series. No, I binge watch series, and then what else do I do? And then
Binge
of course
watch.
I
Binge
have to
watch what?
prepare-
Netflix.
Yeah, Netflix.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you have VPN, I suppose.
Yeah, I have VPN.
Okay.
And then I prepare for my own meals because during the first few days the canteen is closed because of the New Year holidays. But since yesterday, Monday, the canteen has resumed its operation, so I can now buy my food in the canteen.
So at
in the
least now you
canteen,
can
yeah.
you can leave your room, but you're still, in
Yeah.
other words, for the last how many weeks you've just been in your building? Hindi ka lumalabas dyan sa
Yeah.
dorm.
Well, I also go out to buy some groceries in the supermarket, which is just beside the main gate of the university. So, yun lang yung that's the only time when I go out of the campus.
All right. And when you leave the dorm, the building, and when you leave the campus to go to that the grocery store beside the campus, naka-mask ka lang, and you know what.
Yep.
What's happening outside? Ganyan din. People limited movement, limited activities.
There are very few people right now, and because the lockdown started on the 23rd, and these are several days before the Chinese New Year, so many of the people are already, have returned to their hometown, and most of the people have opted to stay inside their houses too. So naturally, people will be very few. But because of the New Year celebration, usually people will be outside celebrating with their family, going to malls, watching movies. But this time, they closed all the malls, at least here in our area, and I think the entire Wuhan. And then most of the all the establishments are closed too. So restaurants, fast food chains. So if you want to buy food, it's very hard if you buy it outside because most of them are closed. And then on the 26th, they prohibited private vehicles. So you can no longer go outside using your own cars if you have your own car. But if you have bicycles, you can use them. So many people would just opt to walk, no? But you can only walk up to a certain distance. So there are really very few people outside.
Yeah. If this hadn't happened, would you have been out of Wuhan? Usually during I know it's very, very cold, no, but sometimes, even if you are a Filipino national, no, visiting, studying there, nakakalabas ka naman, no? Pero would you have been outside of Wuhan?
I have been outside Wuhan, but before this scare,
Yeah. Okay.
before this virus thing. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of talk about Filipino nationals there in Hubei province. There, the information is that there are 300, most of them working in, for example, what is it, hotels, etc. And we are presuming that many of them are documented, or are there undocumented workers also?
I'm not really familiar about the situation of the overseas Filipino workers here in Wuhan, no. But in terms of student population, very very small student population.
How many Filipino students are there studying there?
Well, as far as my school is concerned, there are only two Filipinos here. One is me, and the other one is right now is in Shanghai. So she was able to go outside Wuhan before.
Oh, before the
it was
lockdown.
locked down.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
All right. And you haven't tried to venture beyond that grocery store, which is right beside your campus. Parang there's no point,
Yeah.
no? I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because as if I go as far as I can, and it would be, I mean, the greater the risk of possibly having myself infected. So I would rather not venture into going beyond the grocery or the supermarket.
yeah.
Yeah.
Can you describe to us what is Wuhan? What is it famous for? This is, of course, people know it by now very well all over the world because,
Yeah.
it is identified as the ground zero of the new coronavirus. But what was Wuhan before this?
Oh, Wuhan I think it's a hub. No, it's a hub in central China. So going from north to south or from east to west of China, you have to pass through Wuhan in one way or another, because it's like trains are here. Train stations, big train stations are here. The airport is also a major what's that? Transfer airport. So if you have flights, so you might possibly land in Wuhan and then have your connecting flight. Wuhan is also a very urbanized, a highly urbanized city. Well, of course, not exactly similar to Shanghai, but Wuhan has a lot of tall buildings too. In terms of infrastructure, it has its own central business district. It has several tourist attractions too, and I don't know if people are familiar with the Yangtze River. So
Yes.
it's across. I mean, it cuts across Wuhan. So Wuhan is like the left side and the right side, and the river is in between. Okay. What else? Well, if you are into Chinese history, in 1911, the revolution, that it started in Wuhan, led by Sun Yat-sen, that eventually overthrew the Chinese emperor, I think. So, in
Okay.
terms of economy, politics, and history, Wuhan is very rich in those aspects.
Yeah, and in that sense, very unfortunate that this is happening, that Wuhan, this beautiful city, I'm sure, and very historic city, is the center of this coronavirus. But do you wonder how this all really started and why in Wuhan? What happened? Are there a lot of questions going around, and are there enough answers from the authorities, you think?
Oh well, I've just read from the reports, and from the releases of the state media here. Of course, they suspect the seafood market,
Yes.
on the left side of Wuhan, left side of the river, because I'm on the right side of the river. Okay, so the left side of Wuhan, the seafood market there, they've been selling illegal wild animals.
Okay, sige.
Yeah, and of course, because they are illegal, they have been, put there without the authorities knowing it. Of course, I don't know to what extent are the authorities able to search, these places
Yes.
and make sure that they comply with the rules and regulations.
Yeah, okay. And Jan,
Yeah.
one more thing. Earlier I was asking, about the Filipino nationals there. Do you feel the need to to have yourself repatriated to return? I mean, if you can even get out of Wuhan, or is this something you feel that you can ride out as long as you follow the safety precaution measures, etc.?
Yeah, yeah. Because as far as our university is concerned, no one has contracted the virus yet inside the university. So more or less, it's safe inside the university. Now, if I go out and try to, I mean, because from the university to the airport is quite a distance.
Right.
So there is risk there. If I would venture into going back to the Philippines, yung palang travel from the school to the airport, there's already the risk. And of course, additional burden in a sense, and cause people anxiety if I go back to the Philippines and possibly carry whatever
Right.
virus, no?
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to have them, to have
okay.
to cause unnecessary troubles.
All right.
Yeah.
So far so good, and you're okay there. Well, Professor John Robert Go, thank you very much for joining us tonight here in Politics as Usual, and keep safe and keep healthy, and we'll see you again.
Yeah, thank you, and see you soon, hopefully.
Yes, we will. Salamat. Thank you. That was Professor John Robert Go, a Filipino national who's taking his doctorate in Wuhan, in Hubei province in China. We're taking a quick break. Politics as Usual. Be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to Politics as Usual. We now speak to the Health Department spokesperson, Eric Domingo. Good evening, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, good evening, Pinky. Good evening.
Sir, this is Pia Hontiveros.
Hi, Pia. I'm sorry, Pia. Good evening, Pia.
Yes, Yusek, Eric, can you tell us, the University of Hong Kong was just saying a few hours ago that we will see the peak of the coronavirus in April and or May. Are we in and ready for the long haul?
Well, yes, no, we're doing everything right now to prepare, especially our hospitals, our incident command system, and supplies, just to make sure that because we really think we're just at the beginning of this, and it's going to be mounting the next few months. So we're trying to make sure that everything's ready, and if we get more patients, that we'll have enough facilities to accommodate them.
The number of persons under investigation as of 1 p.m. today, sir, is 24. It's been 6 hours. It is a few minutes past 7 p.m. Has that number changed, sir?
Well, no, we haven't. I think the last 5 we admitted at 1 p.m. today, and we haven't had new cases. We actually went up to 27, but we were able to discharge 3 cases already.
Right.
Yeah, because they're negative and they have no more illness.
Okay.
But right now, you're right, we're holding 24 cases.
All right. So 24 as of 7 p.m. tonight, and so far walang problema, and that number has not been added to, right? I mean, it's still 24.
Yeah, it hasn't been added to, and we are doing tests right now on most of them, and for 6 of them, at least 6 of them, samples were sent this afternoon to Australia for confirmatory testing.
I see. So itong 24 at the moment, or anytime a person is on the list of the persons under investigation list, not all of them, not all their samples are sent to Australia. You choose only certain. How do you make that determine? How do you determine which samples will be sent to Australia?
So first we do screening tests. You find out if there's any other culprit, another virus or another bacteria. So we check them out for the known bacteria and viruses first. And if we
that's a test that's done at RITM,
them,
no, sir?
Yeah, and if we identify one of the known viruses, then we already know that it's not the the new coronavirus.
Okay.
Once we find out that they're positive for coronavirus, but none of the known ones, that's when we send to Australia to check if it's the new coronavirus
Okay.
for 2019.
So in other words, of the 24, the samples of only 6 were sent to Australia because you have some apprehensions, I suppose, about them. Ganun ba?
We have strong suspicion that it might be the new coronavirus, yeah.
So 18, 19, 20. So yung 18 of the 24 are possibly free of they're under investigation, but they may not have it at all. Ganun po ba?
They may not have it at all, but if I remember right, at least 13 of those 18 still have pending screening tests. So we really don't know yet if we're going to send them for confirmation later also.
Okay. So the six, you said you sent the samples of the six patients to Australia. How long does it take before we get a result? So if, for example, you sent it, when did you send it? Like yesterday or today? And then...
No, they were just picked up by the courier from Australia today. So they should get there by early morning, and they usually give us results within 24 hours after they receive it at the lab.
Okay, so it's not like we send it to Australia. There is a courier who comes from Australia and picks it up from here. Ganun po ba?
Yes. Yes. So kasi we have very strict regulation when it comes to moving potentially infectious human and a tissue. Yeah.
Okay, so we are waiting for that. Parang there's special focus on the 6 of the 24. Is this, I don't know if this is a legit question, you know, what are the chances any of those 6 could be positive?
Well, I think the fact that we're sending them for confirmation means that all that, you know, the preliminary test, we've discounted the other causes, no? It means it's not one of the known causes, and there's something there that we want to make sure and find out exactly what it is. So there's a very strong suspicion. If we send it for confirmation, there's a very strong suspicion that it might be a new coronavirus.
So if I understood correctly what you said earlier, perhaps by tomorrow we will already know the results of the 6 that were sent.
Yeah, either tomorrow evening or Thursday morning. That would probably have something. Yeah.
Wow, you know, I'm sure a lot of people are very apprehensive about that when you're waiting for your test results to come back. Talagang parang hindi ka makatulog or makakain. Yeah.
Yeah, but the good thing is the patients are stable. They don't have severe illness. You know, most patients who do get the coronavirus get mild illness. And so far, all of our cases, we haven't had anyone with a severe form of illness.
Why are we lucky so far? I ask this because it's, you know, when you're told kasi by the University of Hong Kong na, oh, the peak is in April or May, no? And we're January, but so far, wala tayong confirmed case, no? Why are we so lucky at this point?
Well, but, you know, the number of persons under investigation is steadily growing. No? It might get less because, you know, after Wuhan lockdown and stopped the travel between China and the Philippines, that would probably help.
Yes.
But the fact that we're getting a lot of persons under investigation just really proves that there's a big possibility that it will come here. Because even the WHO was elevated, the classification, the risk within Asia from, it used to be moderate, and now within the region of Asia, the risk for the spread has now been elevated to a high probability.
Okay, well, and another additional security blanket, I suppose, is that Bureau of Immigration saying they won't be granting those visas under
on arrival.
Upon arrival, ano? So
yeah, these are the tour groups. Wala nang tour groups that will come here and get their visas on arrival, and there are going to be stricter restrictions on individual visas, especially for Chinese nationals coming from Hubei province and Wuhan.
As of this evening, Dr. Domingo, since 6 p.m., have you gotten any reports, even if not yet confirmed, na baka may suspected case elsewhere, na bukod pa dun sa 24 na nasa inyo na ngayon?
So far, wala pa naman. I think after 1:30, we haven't had any reports yet, not even from our regional offices.
All right. Secretary Duque is going to appear before the House of Representatives for that question hour. Do you see this as helpful?
Well, maybe just to understand better what's happening, and you know, it's possible that we might need supplemental budget later for this in case it does escalate. And it would be good to have our legislators appraised of the situation and have an idea of what we may be facing in the near future.
All right. Health Undersecretary Eric Domingo. Sir, thank you very much for joining us tonight. We're going to take a very quick break. When we come back, the Philippine ambassador to China, Chito Santa Romana, is joining us. Be right back. Welcome back to Politics as Usual. I'm Pia Hontiveros. Join us now on the phone, Philippine Ambassador to China, Chito Santa Romana. Good evening, Ambassador. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Pia.
Yes. Well, Ambassador, before anything else, you are here on personal leave because it is the Lunar New Year. Of course, it's a public holiday in China. And earlier, we were speaking to Jan Robert Go, who is in Wuhan. What a sad time for China and Chinese
Yes,
all over the
this
world.
is a perfect example of a black swan incident, something totally out of the blue that's hit China. And I myself, I planned my leave a month before because usually Chinese New Year is very quiet, and I was able to leave Friday. But all of us on the plane, we were all wearing masks in the airport. Everybody was wearing masks. And now the situation in Wuhan, you talk to the UP student who's there in Wuhan, he's a brave soul.
Yes.
He chose to stay. The
Yes.
others, several others were able to
Yes.
escape when the lockdown, or to leave when the lockdown was announced.
Let's talk about the Filipino nationals in Wuhan. Well, Jan Go was saying earlier that there are two of them who are studying in that university. He's not very, he doesn't know much about the other Filipinos there. There are 300, Ambassador, in Hubei and like 150 in Wuhan. These are all...
That is the current figure, because this is based on you see, Shanghai consulate, it has a jurisdiction over Wuhan, and they've been contacting Filipino community leaders there, and through the network we gathered out that there are about 150 in Wuhan and another 150 outside Wuhan in the whole province of Hubei. Of this number, initially, this is before any decision was made today, about 30 to 50 indicated that they were willing to be evacuated. Now the question is we have to ask them to consider everything and whether they're determined to be evacuated so that we could make the final plans.
When you say consider everything, like what, for example? Jan
One,
was saying
when they
earlier
come,
yeah.
well, when they come home, there is a plan to quarantine them for 2 weeks, so as to make sure that if ever they're bearing any virus, it will not spread in the community. Second, the moment they make a decision and the plan is made, they have to get out of the house from self-quarantine and get in contact with a number of contact points. The driver, the interpreter, the airport, the personnel, before you board the plane. So
right.
on all those, you expose yourself to risk. So those are the considerations. And of course, a third, and this is not them, but more us, is the logistics of putting this all together. Now that you'll probably need to charter a plane and all the permissions you need from the Chinese authorities and so on.
Many possible points of possible infections, just like Jan Go was saying, from his dorm to the airport. It's safer, he says, in his university to stay. And like you were saying, so many permits that will need that you need to get. And you're in the perfect position, Ambassador, to tell us, to give us that perspective. You spent 3 decades, in China, so you're very familiar. You know the people there and what life is like, their government.
I survived.
Yes.
I survived the SARS crisis. I covered it actually as a journalist. And there's some. I mean, you're able to survive it by observing certain key points, and one of course is to minimize the social contact, to avoid crowds, and to basically wear a mask. And I remember when even when I was covering, at one point I started coughing. So I had to self-quarantine myself, even within the house, from my family members, just to make sure I didn't spread.
Yes.
But the key is, you see, in China right now, I can understand the feelings of our countrymen, and that's why we try to keep in contact with them to make sure they're safe and sound. It's the psychological pressure that's difficult. The fear that you might be infected, and then the loneliness and the boredom, because you're staying, you're not in school, you're not in work, you're at home.
You're just staying home, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they have to pay attention to the news, and basically through the telephone, through chat groups. That's how.
So, Ambassador,
they're able.
what do you say, Ambassador, that it might be better for them to stay?
Well, actually, I should tell you, we had a long discussion yesterday, DFA and DOH meeting. that was a point raised by the DOH experts. And the Chinese government also had a press conference yesterday. They were making that point. And now the Director General of WHO, who's visiting Beijing after hearing all the briefings, has been basically saying there is no need to evacuate. However, it is given, as I said, the fear, the anxiety, and now the feeling of isolation among a number of Filipinos. They should think carefully, and once they make a decision, they should weigh the risk. Even when they're here, I mean, it won't be back to the family right away. Of course, you're back in the Philippines. That's a different feeling. But you take some risk, and you basically take responsibility for your decision. And the government's responsibility, I think what we're doing is that to provide the option for those who really want to get out. But while we advise them, stay safe, where you are, that it's with food supplies, water, and others. There's the Chinese. We're incooperating with the Chinese authorities because they have to solve the problem of the whole city, the food supply there.
Right.
So, but to give priority to the foreign nationals, the Filipinos. This was the topic of the foreign ministry briefing yesterday with the diplomatic corps.
So in a way, basically, Ambassador, you're saying your message for Filipinos in China in general, in Hubei, in Wuhan, is stay healthy,
safe and sound where you are.
Stay safe, stay put.
Avoid going outside the house. Avoid social contact with other people who may be infected, and try to overcome all the different challenges, and basically stay healthy.
Stay healthy, stay safe, and stay put.
Stay put as much as possible.
As much as possible. All right. Well, Ambassador Chito Santa Romana, sir, thank you very much for joining us, and I hope we get over this hump.
Okay. Thank you very much, Pia.
Maraming salamat po. That was Ambassador Chito Santa Romana. Thank you also to Health Assistant Secretary Eric Domingo, spokesperson for the Health Department. And earlier we spoke to Professor Jan Robert Go, who's taking his doctorate in a university in Wuhan, the center of the coronavirus crisis. And thank you for watching Politics as Usual. I'm Pia Hontiveros.